Welcome! We are pleased to present the Enagar Group's financial and operational results for 2025. In agriculture, growth is not measured in quarters. It is measured in discipline, in resilience, and in long-term vision. 2025 was not just another year for the Enagar. For us, it was a defining year. 2025 meant for us solid operational results, with 13% increase in the milk delivered. Financial performance supported by both volume growth and favorable milk price dynamics. The launch of our 2025-2030 development strategy with a clear ambition of doubling EBITDA by 2030. The transition to a newly structured executive management team that ensures continuity in vision while reinforcing operational discipline and long-term decision making. Strategic investments of 52 million lei. We continued the growth trajectory and delivered solid results, while navigating adverse climate conditions and fiscal changes with resilience. Our net profit grew by 65% and EBITDA by 37%, significantly outpacing revenue growth and driving EBITDA margin at 45%. 4 years after the listing on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, EBITDA has increased, reflecting our ability to turn operational expansion into strong financial results. With the start of operations at the Straja farm, we outperformed the 10% growth target in terms of milk delivered in 2025. We also made first concrete steps in international expansion through raw milk exports entering markets such as Greece and northern Italy. While 2025 delivered strong financial results, the year also meant solidifying the strategic framework for the Enagar's long-term growth strategy. With a newly structured management team, we continue to advance the agenda under the 2025-2030 development strategy and invested in total 52 million lei. At the Straja farm, milestones were achieved ahead of schedule, reaching 2,200 animals in December. The company marked a major step forward in its biomethane project with BSOG Energy by signing key supply and development contracts. Also, the second compost facility of the group became operational in the fourth quarter, reinforcing the Enagar's commitment to circular and sustainable agriculture. We are committed to sustainable growth, evidenced by the integration of solar energy solutions across our main farms. Furthermore, we took the strategic decision to invest in a skimmed milk and cream processing facility, a key step toward margin expansion and deeper regional integration. The agricultural activity in 2025 was marked by significant climate challenges, which lead to considerable pressure on yields. This was particularly evident in alfalfa and silage corn crops, which marked considerably lower yields due to the water shortage. Nevertheless, the financial impact has been partially mitigated by lower market feedstock prices and by implementing proactive and efficiency measures. Investment in modern machinery and technology such as no-till and minimum till have allowed for the expansion of these practices across all cultivated areas in 2025. This transition has streamlined soil preparation, seeding and fertilizing processes, while optimizing operational costs. Operational performance translated into capital market strength. The Enagar shares were the most liquid in the Bet Arrow Index. The share price increased by over 90% in 2025 and by 340% since listing. On September 19th, we hosted the second Investor Day event at the Straja farm, which generated significant interest, bringing together over 150 investors, analysts, journalists and partners. Our efforts continue to focus on engaging with all capital market stakeholders, especially with around 4,200 shareholders registered at the end of December 2025. We also announced our intention to pursue the transfer to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange in the first half of 2027. 2025 was not without challenges: climate volatility, fiscal changes, and market fluctuations. Yet, Our integrated business model proved to be resilient: volume growth, operational efficiency, and disciplined cost management. In 2026, the NRR will continue to prioritize the diversification of its core business segments as a key pillar of sustainable growth. While we anticipate a lower average milk price compared to 2025, the impact at group level is expected to be partially mitigated by the strength of its integrated business model and expanding value-added activities. Although short-term market volatility may persist, the medium to long-term outlook for the group remains positive, supported by structural demand and ongoing strategic investments. The next chapter of the NRR is already in motion. We look forward to shaping it together. We encourage you to stay connected with us through the tools and resources we have made available for all our stakeholders. Good afternoon. Welcome to the preliminary result presentation of the DNOG Group 2025. We have a full agenda today. Also, welcome to a lot of new participants. We have the highest number of subscribers to pre-registration that we ever had in our history. So welcome to our results presentation. We had a record year last year. Turnover up at 20%, net profit up with 65%. We will go later on in all these indicators. I also welcome our CFO, Michele Kula, who will guide you through all the financials. We'll answer some questions as well as she will guide you through the IFRS results as well, the restatement, and from Q1 2026 we will start to produce on quarterly basis our figures in IFRS. Next to that, Adina, I also welcome Adina Troevenhuis, the CEO and Deputy CEO of the DNOG Group. She'll guide you through the agricultural year and on the current projects that we're in operation. So let's go to the agenda. We have it over here. So we will go to the results, operational activity, current projects, capital market journey, and I included today because we have some headwinds. I would say so on the commodity market of dairy products. So we will share with you some nice research. I think really rough research from the Rabobank, which is the leading bank in agricultural financing, as well as from ABN AMRO and some research done by the European Commission. We will include that there. So I will mainly emphasize today on that to show you the outlook for 2035. As well as up to 240, what to expect, what mitigations we will take to further sustain our integrated business model, and to show that we have a resilient business model which is clearly future-proof, especially through our diversification strategy. Then we go to the questions, of course. There are a lot of questions also asked on forehand. We will answer them all. So that's more or less the schedule of today. Then find my, let's see, here we go. So since a few years, we are the largest milk producer in the European Union, including the UK. The company was founded by my father, Jan de Boer. He's currently president of the board of directors. We got listed, the operation in Romania started in 2008, while we got listed 2022, 2nd of February, just before the Russian aggression in Ukraine started, 2 weeks before. Currently we have 18,000 animals. We are one of the fastest growing companies on the Romanian stock exchange. And we have currently 5 farms and 2 composed units, as well as last year with the transition of me becoming CEO and transition in our management team, we also announced our new development strategy from 2025 to 2030. So here, again, we tripled the business since listing. The EBITDA surged at 470% since listing. Last year, we delivered 70 million liters of milk. Our target was 10%, but we delivered 13%. And today, we are the leader in the EU. Today, this is our current business model. You have maybe seen it already on forehand, or at the end of the presentation, we will see the even further integrated and diversified business model that we are developing in the coming years, especially this year 2026 will be a main year of execution. Wheatgrass facility will come operational. The milk processing plant for skimmed milk and cream will become operational the second part of this year. We will start the construction of the Koet farm, the Koet 2 farm. So lots of projects ahead, and still, of course, further increasing the herds as well as spaces at the Strajel farm. Michaela, please take it over from here.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome, dear participants, in this afternoon. We will go in the following minutes through the results of the company from the previous year. The financial performance during 2025 is the result of the strategic decision taken in recent years, but also favorable market context. The investments made, the operational discipline, and the developments inside the company have together contributed to the performance obtained. DNA Agrar ends the year 2025 with turnover of RON 230 million, a net profit of 52.3 million, and an EBITDA increase of 37% compared to the previous year. The increase in the quantity of milk during the year by 13% more than 2024, but also a selling price of milk by 12% higher than last year, contributed to the increase in turnover by 21% compared to the previous period. Next slide, please. The operating result benefited from a positive dynamic, reaching RON 71 million, with revenue growing faster than operating expenses. Analyzing the structure of revenues, the main sources that contributed to the operational performance were production sold, RON 202 million, production in progress, RON 62 million, that is the value of asset in the production process, as basis for achieving future revenues. Then we have revenues from subsidies of approximately RON 29 million. In this moment, the company loses 40% of subsidies from eligible animals and 30% of subsidies from eligible production of milk, because the reference date used by APIA is not updated in relation to the actual livestock every year. That means for us over 560,000 euro per year. Another factor that influenced the structure of revenues are revenues from production of tangible fixed assets for almost RON 27 million, representing value of young herd going into milk productive cows. The evolution of operating expenses, up with 20% compared to previous year, but below the growth rate of revenues, demonstrates the company's operational discipline and ability to generate sustainable profit. The level of operating expenses was mainly influenced by personnel expenses, depreciation expenses, and external services. Expenses that are necessary to support the higher production volume and quality standards with a positive impact on future performance. This can be seen in the EBITDA level, which reaches RON 97 million at the end of the year, up with 37% compared to the previous year. The increase in EBITDA at a higher rate than revenues reflect the improvement of margins and the efficiency of the operating model. During the reported period, the company registered also losses from the financial results, influenced by interest costs with 5 million and exchange rate differences of another 5 million, generated by the devaluation of the national currency and the revaluation of debts in foreign currency. Compared to the previous period, the income tax increased by 44%, corresponding to the increase in operational profit, highlighting the direct link between operational performance and tax obligations. The company thus records at the end of the year an income tax of approximately RON 9 million, which will generate additional pressure on cash flow. The company's performance during the analyzed period is reflected also in the increase in financial margins. Thus, the EBITDA margin rose to 45% compared to previous year, highlighting better operational efficiency and an increased capacity to generate cash from core activity, while the net profit margin increased to 25% compared to the same period previous year. In the company's asset structure, at the end of the year, indicative value of fixed asset of 293 million RON, which increased faster than the depreciation level during the same period, mainly due to the commissioning and recognition of new assets towards the end of the reporting period that will lead to a limited impact on depreciation in the current year. Current assets also increased by 25%, up to 145 million RON, reflect higher liquidity and support for operational activity. The company's current liquidity reaches an optimal level of 1.62 at the end of the reporting period, the company being able to cover its short-term debts and maintaining the efficiency of resource uses. During 2025, the company made investments of approximately 52 million RON, consisting of 27 million RON construction of Straja Farm, 7 million RON construction of the composting line in Lactoagrar Farm, 8.25 million RON purchasing agriculture equipment, 7.5 million RON investment in solar panels, and 1.25 million RON for the water lagoon and concrete platforms in Gârbova Farm. In the last part of the year, investment in the milk processing plant project worth 1 million RON were also started. To finance this project, the company recorded a 19% increase in long-term debts, ensuring stable and extended term resources. At the same time, the cash flow generated from operational activity allowed partial coverage of investments and maintenance of liquidity, demonstrating the financial balance of the expansion strategy. The performance of the company's assets can be seen in the return on assets of 12% at the end of the year, while the efficiency of the use of equity supported by long-term financing is reflected in a return on equity of 24%. The company's assets recorded a value of 441 million RON at the end of the year, being financed almost equally by debt and equity, reflecting a balanced, stable, and flexible financial structure to support future investments. Total liabilities thus reached the value of 223 million and equity 218 million RON at the end of the reporting period. With a profit margin of 25% related to the turnover, Agrar ends the year with a net profit of 52.3 million RON. The evolution of the net profit over EBITDA indicator, up to 54% at the end of the year, up with 21% compared to the previous year, shows again a well-managed financial structure which allows optimizing the impact of financial and tax expenses on the final profit. The improvement of this indicator also demonstrates the sustainability of financial performance and the company's ability to generate value in the medium and long term. The company achieved its budget objectives for the main financial indicators, EBITDA 97 million and the net profit of 52 million, except turnover for 230 million RON that remains at the level of estimation from March. This alignment to the budget reflects both operational efficiency and careful cost control, together with disciplined execution of the strategic plan implemented by the management team. Next, we will present in the following slides the company's results according to IFRS, with a focus on the main differences that arise from the application of these standards. The transition date to IFRS was 1st of January 2024, agriculture and livestock sector being a sector significantly influenced by the change in the accounting framework. IFRS has a principle-based approach and places a much greater emphasis on fair value measurement. In agriculture and livestock, this is essential because biological assets and agriculture products have quite significant price fluctuation, and IFRS requires the recognition of these changes directly in profit and loss. If in GAAP we had a reporting predominantly based on historical cost, IFRS introduces an economic picture closer to market reality. The most relevant areas of impact for Agrar activity are IAS 41, biological assets and agricultural products. This is the area with the greatest impact for our activity. According to this standard, biological assets must be measured at fair value less cost to sell. Compared to GAAP, where inventories were held at cost, IFRS leads to a higher value of assets and direct variation in operating profit. In this matter, the reevaluation of biological assets is made periodically at each reporting period, that means quarterly, by an external evaluator, which uses similar transaction with what Agrar has, comparing selling prices and considering different kind of stages in the development of the biological assets. Another standard that impacts Agrar's activity is IFRS 16, leases, because in our company, leases of agricultural land, machinery, livestock, or logistic equipment play an important role. Based on this standard, these contracts are recognized in the balance sheet in the form of a right of use asset and a lease liability. This has influence on the EBITDA growth increase because rent no longer appears in operating costs, increase in liabilities by recognizing the leasing obligation, and increase in total assets by recognizing as assets for use. Both IAS 41 and IFRS 16 had a significant influence on the balance sheet indicators, which led at the end of the year to total assets of 506 million RON, total liabilities of 259 million RON, and increase in EBITDA up to the value of 106 million RON. Government subsidies. Another important element in our activity, represented by agriculture subsidies, also fall under the incidence of this standard, IAS 41. In IFRS, subsidies for biological assets are recognized in the profit and loss account when they become due. That is, when we meet the condition for granting them. Compared to GAAP, the moment of recognizing income from subsidies is different. This had impact on the operating profit, which reaches the value of 87 million RON under the IFRS at the end of the year. IAS 38, intangible assets, has another impact on the treatment of establishment expenses that are not recognized as intangible assets, but are recorded as expenses when they occur according to IFRS. Under Romanian GAAP, establishment expenses are capitalized. IFRS 9, financial instruments. According to this standard, the group recognizes provision for trade receivables based on expected credit losses over their entire lifetime. The approach used is simplified and estimates the probability that the receivable will not be collected, unlike GAAP, where losses were recognized only when non-collection actually occurs. IAS 12, deferred tax, requires the recognition of deferred tax assets in the form of income tax that will be recovered in the future, in the moment when the book accounting value overpass the tax value of the assets, or a deferred tax liabilities in the form of income tax that will be paid in the future when the book accounting value is under the tax value of the asset. Income tax expenses recognized according to this standard influence the net profit of 64 million RON that appears at the end of the reporting year. Even according to IFRS, we can see an increase in the main performance indicators that highlight the company operational activity can also be observed here. Thus, EBITDA margin reported to total revenues reached 41%, and profit margin to total revenues reached 25%, highlighting the efficiency and profitability of current activities compared to GAAP values, where we had 29% for EBITDA margin and 60% for profit margin. Based on all these restatements, IFRS offers, in the end, a more complete and transparent picture of the real value of the assets held by the company in a field affected by crisis, productivity, and biological cycles. And with this, I will...
Thank you, Mihaela. Good afternoon, everyone. In 2025, Denagrar delivered over 70 million liters of milk. That means 13% increase compared to last year. At the beginning of the year, our goal was to grow up to 10%. We reached our target and we did even better. This growth of the milk came from further optimization in our farms, from more attention to daily operation, and from increasing the number of animals. Straja Farm contributed also with almost 10% of this growth. If you look at the national market, the milk collection in Romania has increased in 2025, and also the imports went up. So the market is active and competitive. For us, the focus stays simple: to work efficiently, to manage costs carefully, and to grow in a healthy way. That's how we see the future: steady, disciplined, and realistic. Yes. Now let's look at the crop side. In 2024, the total rainfall was 683 liters. In 2024, the rainfall was 683 liters, and in 2025, we had only 446 liters and on less favorable times. That is a significant drop, and it explains why the year was more difficult for crops. Production in the field is strongly connected to rainfall. When we have less rain, we see the impact directly. At the same time, if you look at the soil moisture map now, in this moment, the level of humidity in the soil is satisfactory, and what we see, where we see the last year for harvesting this year, looks good so far. Back. For the crop impact, we can see clear impact of drought on our crops this year. The production in 2025 was lower comparing with 2024, especially for corn silage and lucerne. These crops depend mainly on water from spring and summer. Triticale and wheat were less affected because they used the soil moisture accumulated during the winter. Corn silage has a decrease from 31.5 tons per hectare in 2024 to 18 tons per hectare in 2025. Lucerne also dropped significantly. Because of this situation, we acted early and secured part of our feed requirements from the market as competitive prices. This helped us to ensure stability in our operations. In this context, we also decided to fully extend our no-till and minimum-till technology to all our crops. With this method, we retain more water in the soil, we reduce fuel consumption, we lower the labor cost, and improve soil structure over time. That what we already see in the fields where minimum-till was applied is that the crops are less affected compared to conventionally worked field area in our area. Now let me say a few words about Straja Farm. Straja is one of our most important expansion projects. The project started in 2023 and is planned to be fully complete in 2027. The total capacity will reach 5,000 dairy cows. In 2024, we complete the main foundation works, part of the main hall, and finalize waste storage in the lagoon. In 2025, milk production started in March. By the end of the year, we have reached 2,200 cows. The 2 rotary parlors were completed and the robots were installed. The farm hospital and the maternity area were also finalized. In 2026, we will continue building the barns and gradually increase the herd size. We plan to reach in the end of 2026 around 3,400 cows, including pregnant heifers. By the end of 2027, the farm will operate at full capacity, 5,000 dairy cows. Straja is a key pillar in our growth strategy. We are building step by step in a controlled and disciplined way. On this slide, you can see some update photos from Straja. These photos reflect the current situation and development. The farm is fully operational at the first phase, and construction continue almost according to the plan. This winter, we built less than compared with last winter because of the weather. So step by step, Straja is becoming one of the most important dairy farm in our group. Now we like to talk about compost factories and how they strengthen our circular economic model. This project addressed two major challenges: efficient manure management and improved soil fertility. At the same time, it contributes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Apold compost factory is operating according to the plan. The Lacto Agrar compost facility is completed and has entered the testing and commissioning phase. Full-scale production is scheduled to start in the second half of March. With the installation of the second factory, our total organic fertilizer production capacity will increase significantly. The compost that already is produced will be used both internally to improve soil quality and externally, creating an additional revenue. Looking ahead, we are completing the organic certification process through EcoCert. We are also preparing to enter in the international carbon certification system, which is expected to generate approximately 32,000 carbon credits per year starting in 2026. This project strengthens our integrated organic waste management system and supports a more sustainable and efficient agricultural model. In this slide, you can see the photos from our compost factory in Apold. The facility is operating according to the plan, and the process is stable. We see already good results in manure management and compost quality. Here you can see also in Apold compost factory, we purchased and commissioned a new packaging machine. This system is fully operational. Here you can see Lacto Agrar, our new compost facility. The construction is completed and the factory has entered in the testing phase. We are preparing a full-scale production. Step by step, we are building a structure that supports both sustainability and long-term efficiency. I would like to present our solar energy project. We completed the installation of solar panels on the roofs of Apold, Lacto Agrar and Cut farms. The total investment amount is approx 1.7 million euro with 60% funding through PNRR. The total installed capacity is 2,218 kilowatt. The solar panels and battery system are fully installed and operational. In the next phase, we will increase the grid connection capacity of the farms so we can use the full energy potential of the system. The main goal is to reduce our carbon footprint and secure a renewable energy source for our internal operations. We are also interested in extending the solar project to Straja farm. However, we are waiting for a new AFIR funding session to be open before moving forward. This project strengthens our energy independence and supports our long-term sustainability strategy. Here you can see the sun panels on the roofs on our farms, here Cut and Lacto Agrar. Oh, back. Sorry. Finally, I will like to mention our biomethane project developed together with Black Sea Oil and Gas Energy. This project is an important step to a fully integrated and sustainable. Agrar will supply the raw material while Black Sea Oil and Gas will develop and operate the plant. At this stage, the project is in a permitting and detailed design phase. All key develop and supply contracts have already been signed. The final investment decision is expected to be taken in Q2 of 2026. Total estimated investment is around 30 million euro. This project allows us to better use our resources, reduce emissions, and create additional long-term value for Agrar. Step by step, we are building a more efficient, more sustainable, and more integrated business model. Thank you for your attention. And now I will hang up back to Peter.
Thank you very much, Michaela and Adina, for the clear explanations on the financials, IFRS, and current projects. So let's quickly move on to the capital market journey. It's working. No, I am here. So there we go. As I mentioned already, we are currently one of the fastest growing companies on the Aero market, the stock exchange. On the left side, you see the bottom side, the shareholders, where we have shareholders. We don't have only shareholders in Romania, but in a big part of Europe. It's good to mention we started in 2022 with 150 shareholders. Today we have, at the end of December, we had 4,200, but today we have even 4,600. Liquidity is still going strong, I would say, in our stock. So that's good. That's good to see as well. We have last year we had a capitalization of 4.5, but today we are over 600 million of market cap. And our goal, of course, based on our strategy, is to further grow in the coming years, where our goal is to reach a market cap in 2030 somewhere between 200 and 300 million euros. Let's see. Oh, the wrong one. Let me see. Yeah. So there we are. So if we look to the evolution of the share price, the lowest line at the bottom is the Bet Arrow Index, the index where we are included. We saw since listing a 6% growth. If we look to the index of the main market, the Bucharest Stock Exchange, 46% growth. And of course, our growth since listing, 340%. Sorry, I'm taking the wrong figures here. So if you look to the lower line, it is minus 10%, the Bet Arrow Index, the index that we are included till the end. The Bet Index of the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, 103% growth, and we since listing 340% growth. This is the figures by the end of December. If we look up to today, we see a growth in our share price this year already of almost 40%. So we're still growing strong, I would say. So as I said, currently with 4,600 investors. Last year, we were able to attract one of the largest institutional investors on the local market to enter with 2% in our company. And our goal is also in the coming period to further diversify our investor base, and mainly to add institutionals to the investment base. So we go further on. Here we see liquidity compared to last year, significant increase, 51% traded value. We were the first position in the Aero market for 2025 based on traded value. Let's move on. If we compare the Agrar company where it stands on a European level, First Farms, a Danish company with also dairy production, but also pork and crop production, listed on the Copenhagen Stock Exchange. We see since listing plus 9%. MHPC on the London Stock Exchange plus 11%. And Alga Group minus 84%. And of course, clearly our growth rate there as well. Then we go to the current strategy calendar. So 2026 is really a year of execution, execution, and execution. We see a lot of projects here. We are really confident for the future, and that we will even try to further accelerate our growth. This is something that we proved to do since listing. We grow quarter on quarter and year, and we expect for 2030 still show a significant growth in our operations, in our financial figures, and as a business as a whole. Next to that, sustainability, of course, is a real key pillar in our strategy. This year, we will open the processing plant, which is expected to start in the testing phase in August. We will soon start the construction phase, which will have a capacity of 150,000 liters per day, which we will build at the Strage farm, at the full capacity of the Strage farm. We will start the development of the Coutu farm. We aim to have a shareholders meeting end of April, beginning of May, for the approval from the shareholders for the financing of the Coutu farm, a dairy farm with 5,000 dairy cows, investment around 10 million euros, plus some own sources financed by ING for a 1.5% interest rate plus 1 month Euribor, as well as for 2 additional compost units. The biomethane project this year, in the first half year, the final investment decision should be taken. The first operationals for the wheatgrass plant, the food cluster, further increase of animals of the Strage farm, currently 2,200. We should reach by the end of this year over 3,000 animals. And of course, it's a really important year this year for the preparations of the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Well, let's go quickly through the project's timeline, as I mentioned. Why we start to do in process? And we said for many years, we don't want to compete with our largest clients. We still are not aiming to do that. But we saw some mainly legislation on the Romanian market and growth restraints on the local market. That is the price cap that is labeled on dairy products on the local market, as well as that we see if we look to the dairy prices on the European market, we see a constant high in northern Italy and Greece. And later on, I will show you some maps as well with growth projections or decline projections for the European market. And I will add some info there. But the first production facility will have a 150,000 liters per day, where we can produce skimmed milk, cream, and we can also deliver to certain food suppliers milk with an exact percentage of fat. So if, let's say, maybe there is 3% fat in our milk, as an example, but the food processor needs 1.8, then we are able to deliver exactly milk with 1.8%, which will easen and of course increase efficiency at those factories. Think of companies like Nestle, Unilever, bakeries, ice cream factories, etc. So we are, while not competing with our main clients like dairy processors, milk processors, we are able to diversify our group of clients, not only milk processors, but also food processors in general. Next to that, currently we can transport 100,000 liters with 4 trucks, a bit more than 4 trucks. We could extract the water to a certain degree out of the milk, and that means we could transport 100,000 liters with 1 truck. So significant decrease in transportation costs, which means opens up to a lot to other markets in the European Union. And this makes the business case even significantly better for Greece and northern Italy. To give you some perspective, in August we received the highest milk price, although it was on small quantities of milk, because it was not contractor milk that we sold to Greece. That was by far the highest milk price we received this year. Also, we will have an extra storage of 300,000 liters. This we can use for days, especially milk that's traded on the spot market. If there are unfavorable days, think of public holidays, etc., weekends, where usually it's harder to sell on the spot market. So we're able to store it those days and not to dilute our sales price. As well, we will have the possibility to sell smaller quantities, think of 1,000 liter packaging, to smaller companies. So we looked at the timeline. Financing is already approved. It was in January. The equipment is scheduled to arrive in Romania in April. May, July, we will do construction. Testing is in August, and we aim to really start sell to the skimmed milk, the cream, etc., on a continuous basis from September. Of course, this will add a part. This should, depending on the price. If we look to the market of skimmed milk and cream, they follow generally the pattern of the raw milk prices. Of course, generally in times of a higher milk price, usually segments where we are strong at, so we can grow further in milk production while significantly transport our milk further away to strong consumer countries like Italy and Greece. This is a picture or a scheme of the new processing plant. So inside is the factory and those big storages outside that are the 300,000 liters storage capacity. Well, then we go to the biomethane project. It's the deal that we closed a few years ago with Black Sea Oil and Gas, specifically Black Sea Oil and Gas Energy. It's an investment of around 30 to 40 million euros. We have the option also for an equity stake of maximum 20%, which we will decide later on this year. We expect revenues for the Enaguar between 3 and 3.5 million euros as a start. We deliver the raw material. And of course, we need to transport it to this plant. But some farms will also be connected by a pipe through the biomethane plant. So this significantly reduces also transportation costs over there. The current status is we are undergoing the permitting phase, both parties. FID is expected in the first part of this year. Then also soon construction should start. The construction will take 1 to 1.5 years. And we expect to start with production in case of a positive FID in the beginning of 2028. Well, the Koet 2 farm, I mentioned already, 5,000 dairy cows. That farm will exactly be the same size and structure as the Straja farm. So 150,000 liters of milk per day. That means over 50 million liters on an annual basis. Investment of 10 million euros. I mentioned already. We expect approval April, maybe or the first 1 or 2 weeks of May. Again, we will have their processing plant as well of 150,000 liters. So we are significantly diversifying our client base. Start construction is expected to start at the end of this year, and we expect the first operations in March 2028. Due to market growth, and which I will show you later on in this presentation, we are thinking to add extra construction workers besides our own construction team to maybe even further speed up the process of the Koet 2 farm. So this shows a clear commitment from the management team of the Enaguar that we believe in the future and that we see clear growth opportunities. So we are not stepping down, but we are further investing and accelerating the implementation of those projects to secure constant growth in the coming years. The wheatgrass production facility. As Adina mentioned, last year was a really difficult year due to climate. The reason the Enaguar is located in Transylvania, that generally in Romania it has the most favorable climate, especially to rainfall. This year it looks really good. We had a lot of snow, we had a lot of rain. So for the triticale crop, the prospect looks really good. And for the rest of the year, of course, we need to see if there are additional rainfall, and especially at the end of spring, etc., if there will be sufficient rainfall. The production output will be between 35 and 40 tons. We work together on this with Logix to design this facility. The test phase is almost finished. We try currently to even further increase the protein level in the plant. And I expect in the coming weeks to announce the finalization of this deal. The goal is construction in H1, and after the summer, I would say Q3, to start testing, growing, etc. And in Q4 to start to deliver contribution to the feedstock of the Koet 1 farm. In time, we estimate that 30 or 40% of our feedstock could be replaced by the wheatgrass, which will be grown on the farm in a hydroponic farm. So no diesel cost, it needs 90% less water, no herbicides, no pesticides. And this is a huge contributor to our main strategy goal by 2030 to produce net zero milk. As well, our animals will have access of fresh food throughout the year, at least of 30 or 40%, which is every day the same quality. There's a lot of scientific research done. In this case, either cows start to consume more and to produce more milk, or they're faster satisfied and they will consume less tons. And we really believe that this is the future with climate change, especially in an industrial scale that we are operating, that this is the clear future to go for, to have constant quality food with a significant reduction of emissions and water usage. Well, here you could see here you see the design. It's almost finalized. We will have water storage and grain supply on the bottom, on the ground floor, and on the upper floor there will be the growth section. It will be fully automated. That means seeding, harvesting, watering, cleaning of the trays, etc. It's a fully automated operation. Also, most of the water that is used will be reused. The water that is used for cleaning, as well as the water that is used to water the plant and what drips down to the ground, will be reused again. So it's a real circular model. We will start with 3 rows and with 3 harvesting machines. And on the side of the building, of course, we see the truck. It gets filled and it immediately can be brought to the animals. We will first start to see what in different groups. We will do a lot of tests of dairy cows, and in the future we could even do tests for young stock, for havens, and maybe even calves. Well, then the food cluster. We went recently on a trip to together with Wageningen and Metropolitan Food Cluster. They were also one of the speakers at our investor day. We did a site analysis. We visited 3 food clusters integrated, where we saw greenhouses, distribution, packaging, sales to companies, to the sales agents companies, to the supermarket. So it was a fully integrated with an energy mix, etc. So fully integrated food cluster, and we see a lot of potential here for Romania in this regard, especially that Romania is a significant net importer of fruits and vegetables. As currently we see the quality is medium to low on the market, but we see a lot of potential for more premium fruits and vegetable products, where there also are some synergies. For example, the organic fertilizer we produce, we could use in these greenhouses. So we are working on the business model. Stress testing will be done this year, as well as selection of a location. We are currently analyzing several locations where there is sufficient railway, waterways, airports, etc., to see what can we grow locally or what can we contract locally as fruits and vegetables, and what needs to be imported to have the right mix to add value for sales to supermarkets. Well, here you see some pictures of our visits. It was really cold. You could see here, we see blueberry farm, we see greenhouses for paprikas, distribution centers, etc. It was a really interesting week, as well as we spoke there to certain companies locally who would like to expand to Romania. So it's not our goal to build this food cluster completely by ourselves. We will support with infrastructure, energy solutions, but also attract and contract a lot of foreign and other and local parties who should participate in this cluster. We will not try to reinvent the wheel, I would say. It's a project of more years, but our goal is to finalize this year the business plan, to start to present it to you, our investors. As well as, if things goes as smooth as expected, we could even start to contract or to purchase land for this cluster. That means several hundreds of hectares of land that we need to find on a right location. Well, the Straža farm, constant development, it's growing fast. Milk is really, milk supply increasing there day by day. That looks really good. I would say. By the end of this year, 3,400 cows, and in 2027, so end of next year, we expect 5,000 dairy cows. And then that farm can fully supply the milk processing plant with skimmed milk and cream. Digestate lagoons. So because of the development of the biomethane plant, we will remain with a digestate. So currently we are constructing a lot of lagoons in our fields. So when the digestate comes out of the biomethane plant, a part will go into the compost plant. So we will vectorize at least 2 times our manure in the future. And the remaining digestate will end in the lagoons in the fields, where we can hang in the pipe connected to the tractor to fertilize around those fields around the lagoon, which will mean again a significant reduction of transportation. The compost production we will further increase. We are still working on the EcoCert certification. It takes really long. That needs to be done in France, but there is some good news. The Isocoshin, the technology that we work with, the Japanese technology, recently received the certification. They started the certification process 2 months earlier than us, but they received the certification, and we are really positive that we will receive it in the coming 2 months as well. We thought that our turnover is a bit lower than the updated budget, 213, while we said in the updated budget would be 215. That was mainly due to the fact that we decided to sell less compost organic fertilizer due to the fact that we didn't have the certificate. So that was one of the main factors, and of course the decline in milk price that we had in Q4 as well. We expect an approval, or we hope, let's say, but we aim for an approval this year for 2 additional composting units. So we can now produce 14,000 tons. And our goal is by the end of next year to produce 28,000 tons of organic fertilizer. Well, our path to the main market, that is one of our key tasks this year. That's to implement an audit committee, to implement a remuneration committee, some other committees. We will have a critical look to our board structure. We will contract a broker in H1 this year, as maybe probably some banks. We expect to finalize that as well. We'll have several roadshows with institutional investors as well as with family offices to enter the Energar's shareholder structure either this year or next year, when we plan to do the upgrade to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, which should take place in April or May next year. Well, then we go to the milk market outlook. So what we're seeing over here is it's either Eurostat, Rabobank research. There's most data coming from, also apart from ABN AMRO, and we go slide by slide. What are their estimations, mainly for the EU market, but also globally. Currently, we see a lot of headwind in the milk market. There's several reasons. Last year, we had the mouth and claw disease in several European countries, as well as blue tongue. So the cycle was disrupted, I would say, because when the cows had these kind of diseases, they didn't give birth to calves. So when the issues were solved in regards to these kind of diseases, the process needed to start up again, and those cows came now later into the process of milking again. This means we have an additional supply currently due to those diseases. Next to that is another effect of the milk price was that we see a significant decline in the number of farmers on a European level. And milk processors last year, they kept the price high. No one wanted to be the first one who would add a correction on the highest milk price that was the highest in the recent years, the milk price, to put a correction there, because it's harder and harder for milk processors to retain their clients, because there are less and less numbers to contract, and generally a farmer has only one client, and they don't switch between processors. If we look here to the EU milk supply, although it's not declining yet, there's a lot of oversupply. We see the Netherlands almost 7% additional in the beginning of the year of milk production. We see that in Germany as well. And we expect that it will continue to put pressure on the market in the coming months, because in Western Europe they had a really good and successful agricultural year in 2025, so they have relatively low feed costs, as well as at current feed cost prices on the market are also really competitive and really favorable. So this will take for a few more months. But after that, we expect to see an increase in slaughtered animals, as well as optimization of the herd. And then in the second part of the year, we expect that the milk price will start to grow again. If we look, and anyway, the growth on the European level, if you compare it on the world market, it's still low. The annual growth is only 0.7%. It's far below the gains in the US, Brazil, Argentina, etc. We need to see, of course, with New Zealand later in the year. They have their highest supply, usually in September and October, so that could put a bit of extra pressure. The Rabobank expects that in the Netherlands, compared to today, there will be 20% less farms. Due to the nitrogen issue and other climate issues. We also will see Ireland has a nitrogen issue as well as Denmark. So also we will see a decrease there in milk supply. And to give you an idea, the Netherlands and Ireland together, they supply for 15% of the EU milk production. So they are large players, but we will see a decrease in these countries. On a European level, we will see a decrease in 5% compared to 2025. If we look to mainland Europe, they kept the prices stable. As I mentioned already in September, so normally the correction should have taken place earlier last year, but they were afraid to lose clients, and they need to maintain clients. So they delayed the price cut. Well, if we look here to the livestock density, we see Ireland, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark were significantly intensified agricultural dairy producers. With animal welfare, with climate change regulation, it is clear that these kind of countries will feel consequences of sustainability legislation that will be implemented through the Green Deal. On the other hand, we see that Eastern Europe, especially the CE region, has lots of opportunities to further intensify their herd structure and their dairy sector, if we look to these graphs. So there's a lot of potential for Eastern Europe to take over the role of Western Europe. As I mentioned already, Ireland and the Netherlands contribute to 15%, and there are two countries who are faced with a nitrogen issue. In Romania, there is no nitrogen issue at all. There is a shortage of nitrogen as well as a shortage of manure in general. If we look to the next slide, on a European level, the majority of the farmers are 55 years and older. Only 12% of the farmers is under 40 years old. That's an issue as well. And if we look to most small to medium-sized farms, they are currently disappearing. That's already for a long period. We see still growth for larger scale, more industrialized farms. To the last couple of years, there was a growth of 7%, but the smaller farms, they decreased with approximately 40%. So it's clearly that we will have less and less number of farms, and we can also see the age population. Romania, Eastern Europe will face consequences there as well. Romania has the most individual farmers in all of Europe, but also an aging population. So we expect, and the Rabobank expects, based on Eurostat data, that we will see a significant decrease in farmers in Southern Europe and Central Eastern Europe. Well, if we look to the expected milk supply development, sharp decline. I mentioned already the Netherlands is expected to deliver 20% less milk. Also those other countries, Belgium, France, Portugal, Italy, and Greece. Please look at Greece. We expect that Greece will become one of our main markets in the future. So from our perspective, it's a good sign that there will come even more pressure on local milk production in Greece, as well as Italy and Croatia, that are all three nations that will be in our reach to sell our products to in the future through the processing plant. And if we look to 2003, in the EU, there were approximately 15 million farmers. In 2016, there was already declined to 10.3 million farms. In 2020, it was 9.1, and the European Commission expects that it's a worst case scenario, but that we only will remain with 3.8 million farms in the EU. As well, there is a reduction of 3.2 million cows expected in the EU in 2035. The ABN AMRO estimate is conservative. They only say a fall of 8% in 2030, but when it was published, the nitrogen legislation is not implemented everywhere. The Netherlands has just a new government, and there will come a huge buyout for farmers, for example. So normally this figure of 8% is, we expect that is too low. Well, here we look to the milk market outlook. So expected impact of climate change as well. We see Romania is quite red. We just presented you the wheatgrass production facility. Why are we investing in the first system of approximately 3 million euros in this wheatgrass facility? It's for quality of food, sustainability issues, so we will need less crops from the fields, so we need to make less use of natural water from the soil, etc., to extract it from there. But as well, we see over here, those countries in Eastern Europe are significantly red. So it will be harder and harder to get good yields from your hectares, and at least it will be way more unpredictable. So harder to plan from year to year. So if we were able to replace 30 to 40% of our feedstock through the wheatgrass production and to have a constant quality that is not affected by heat waves or storms or whatsoever, and other things and other issues that will occur due to climate change, we think this is the clear direction to go to. And it's not only the technology for us, but our goal, of course, is in the future as well to sell this technology to other farmers or groups of farmers. Other things, how we try to mitigate climate change is no-till technology, solar, our organic fertilizers, so to further reduce, of course, the dependence on chemical fertilizers. And again, if you look to the main market reach, where we will significantly increase our exports to, again, Greece, dark red, Italy, Croatia, etc. So that looks really good. Our neighboring countries as well. So we think that we are really strategically positioned to further deliver to the demand. Well, if we look here, milk production growth in the big 7 exporters and China. So we will see over here, and it's mainly Europe, the EU, the orange color, that we will see in Q2 already a decrease, but especially in Q3 and Q4, there will be significant decreases, mainly from the European market. And some other markets will show a modest growth. If we look to the dairy commodity prices, what we see over there as well, it's all following more or less each other. That is also what we try to mention with our cream and the skimmed milk, that more or less will follow the raw milk price. Currently, we see in the market that especially protein powder, has a really good price, has a high price. But for example, currently the butter market is has completely collapsed, mainly due to the weak dollar in the US. For example, Ireland mainly exports butter to the US, where there are sharp declines there. If we look here on the longer scale, the US production, it's slightly increased last year with around 2%. If we look at New Zealand, there will come less and less milk from New Zealand. This has a big impact usually on the prices in the commodity market, the world market. But we will see their main spike will come later this year. And if we look here to the commodity prices, okay, this is relatively short term, but we have a forecast for 2026 and 2027. Then we will see, if we look to Europe for butter, that prices will recover. Mainly here, it's expected that we see a slow recovery already from Q2, but a more significant recovery from Q3 this year onwards to 2027. With cheese, it's more or less similar. We have currently a decline, but the expectation is that the demand will grow from Q2. And the rest, it speaks more or less for themselves. Skim milk powder, it's good to mention. We will also see there an increase, also from Q2, and then a further increase in Q4, and it's some small increase expected for 2027. No, let me see. Yeah, so if we look to summarize the report and the statistics, so the EU currently export a surplus. It's expected to shrink from 14% to 9% by 2035. We expect the shift in Europe is moving from chronic oversupply to structurally tightening the supply. From the Rabo research, they estimated 3 to 4 milk processing plants in Northwestern Europe they will need to close due to shrinking supply. We see already a lot of mergers. Last year we saw Friesland Campina, they merged with Micobel from Belgium, as well Arla Foods, Danish company, merged with DMK from Germany. It's not necessarily that they do these kind of mergers just to become a larger company or to have a larger part of the pie. Because of the significant decrease in number of farms, they try to do everything they can to secure their supply for the future. As I mentioned already, we have several clients, but the majority of the farmers, they have one client, and usually they stay their whole life as an entrepreneur with that single client. Okay, sometimes they move, but generally they stay to these kind of companies. So we see a lot of mergers, takeovers for several years already in this industry. We also see that in the feed industry, so the feed industry that prepares food for the animals. We also see a lot of consolidation there, mergers, takeovers, etc. That's the only way they secure to have enough farmers delivering their supply, which is expected to grow from the second part of this year. If we look to the Food and Agriculture Organization forecast, they aim for 21% growth in global dairy consumption over the next decade. That will be partially offset in China, but also in the global south in general. Milk production is growing fast. There was a fully new industry. So mainly what will be the future for Europe is to develop and produce higher value added products. Think especially on cheese. The demand for cheese is growing constantly, not only in Europe. In Europe it's still growing, but also outside of Europe. So cheese, but also you could think of certain protein powders, etc., and good quality milk. There will be clearly a market for there, especially for larger industrialized farms who can also produce this in a sustainable way. Because as what we expect is that around 2030 it becomes really important to produce close to net zero milk. So this 21% will be partly offset with local production from there, but not totally. We will see a decrease in oversupply in the EU, so it will give farmers a stronger negotiation position in the future. This can be seen by the merge of a lot of milking processors who really try to keep their clients and to maintain at least the number that they have today, because they saw a decline in number of clients. In the EU, dairy consumption remains stable and cheese demand is increasing, I mentioned already, as well as that we see a shift from red meat to poultry and dairy products in the consumption. The estimation is that the production and the production in the EU, more or less, the consumption in the EU will remain more or less stable, also up to 2035. Not much growth, but there will be more growth, especially on high protein products as well as cheese. Well, if we look to the dynamics for the milk price evolution, we saw already at the end of 2024, the green line, what you see here on the screen, is we had a significant increase in our milk price. And now, of course, we see the significant decrease small decrease in November, but more the significant decrease in milk price, contracted milk price in December. Well, it's also one of the questions we will answer afterwards, is in regards to how could it that Q4 relatively underperformed compared to 2024. So here you have the answer. We had the highest milk price significantly higher milk price in 2024 and a sharper decline in December, as well as I mentioned that we decided not to sell the organic fertilizer, as we are aiming to get the eco certification. And the fertilizer, if it is not certified, the sales price is between 80 and 120 euros. If certified, we aim for a sales price between 180 and 220 euros. We also mentioned, as Adina said before, we invested in a packaging machine for 5, 10 and 20 liter packaging. That's the next stage. There are the margins even higher. So we could also sell B2C. If we look to 2026, was a further decline in January. February, slight decline, and we know our price for the contracted price for March and April, and it's clearly here now seen that the price is stabilized. And we expect that in the coming period, the price will increase slowly with small steps in the beginning and in a more significant pace from Q3 and Q4. And we expect that we are on the average levels again next year. A part of our milk is also sold. All the milk that is produced at the Strage farm is mainly sold currently on the spot market, or we see currently an increase in requests with our current clients. So we are also delivering extra milk supply to our current clients, which is not contracted, but of course for the contracted price. Generally, we don't sell for the Romanian milk price. Our milk price is based on 6 Northwestern European countries. As well as that we get a bonus for our fat and protein. Well, if we look our strategy to 2030, efficient for growth, innovation and value creation, innovative, think of wheatgrass. We will have in 2030 milk production, green energy, compost 40,000 tons, vertical farming for wheatgrass. So that in 2030, we aim to have on all our farms a wheatgrass facility to produce 30–40% of the feedstock that is needed. Through the processing plant, we try to find alternatives for valorizing the milk without competing with our clients. So diversifying our client base as well as our geographic reach. And the largest projects that we are working on is the food cluster for greenhouses for fruit and vegetable production. That should lead to double the EBITDA by 2030 based on the 2024 figure, as well as we aim to produce, last year we produced 70 million liters of milk, and we aim to produce in 2030 150 and 200 million liters of milk. And as I said, we are really confident that the market will grow. And that there will be less and less farmers. Also for a lot of smaller farmers, it will be not possible for them due to welfare legislation, but as well as the Green Deal, to transform their farms in a sustainable farm for the future. So we think that the Enagrar is extremely well positioned. Although we have some headwind this year, that's really clear, is that the Enagrar is really well positioned for the future. And we tackle and we mitigate already a lot of issues, climate change, etc. As I said, diversification of our type of clients, as well as that we are entering new business lines to be more integrated, but also to have several legs, so have several income streams. Well, currently we are in 2026, as I mentioned already, vertical farm at Coot 1. It could even be a compost unit as well there. This we need to see if we will be able to start construction this year, but we aim to at least order the machinery this year. And of course, start of construction in the Coot 2 farm in the second part of this year. Biogas facility, either end of 2027, beginning of 2028. We estimate that production starts in 2028. We estimate the commission and the start of milk production at the Coot 2 farm, as well as even additional compost units. And from 2029, we aim at least to have a few greenhouses on our greenhouse cluster that should come operational, with further extension after 2030, etc. But we aim for a large food cluster that will consist of several hundreds of hectares with greenhouses, distribution, packaging, etc., and a huge energy mix. So in 2030, this is the Enagrar's integrated business model. A lot of investments are ongoing. currently. Wheatgrass, compost, biomethane should be decided this year. So it is really a year of execution, as I mentioned before, with a lot of confidence for the future. Well, if we look to our scenarios, these are the scenarios we published last year. We will update our scenarios by the end of March. Also, by the end of March, we will publish our budget for the coming year. Based on the current scenarios, we don't aim to change the scenarios for 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030. We will analyze the current market if we need to adapt something for 2026. But on the mid and long-term outlook, we don't see any reason or valid argument to think that we are completely off with the scenarios that we have developed. But as you know, we every year update our scenarios. We give you some indicators and references. We will do that this year as well. Well, upcoming events. Tomorrow I will be at the Scrideria de Astazi. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. From Villa Financière. It's at 9:30. At 10th of March at Quarterly Report event, I will further discuss the developments that we expect on the dairy market more on the short term. And I think for some of our foreign investors, I will participate on the 12th of March, organized by the Dutch-Romanian Network in the Netherlands. The goal was to be present last year, but unfortunately, due to personal reasons, I couldn't attend. But this year, I will make sure I will be there. And I think it's an amazing event. It's about investing in Romania. I will present our innovations in the coming years and the strength of our business model, as well, hopefully to inspire other entrepreneurs to list their company on the stock exchange as well. And you see there are quite some nice, it's a nice lineup, I would say. If we look here, on 16 March, I will participate I will be a speaker at the Capital Markets Summit by Zero Financiar. 25th of March, we have the publication of the annual report, and our shareholders meeting will be annual shareholders meeting will be end of April, and around that period, we aim to also ask you for an approval for the investment in the Kutu farm and 2 additional composting units. Well, this was the end of the presentation, and we move quickly on to the questions. Daniela.
Hello, good afternoon, and congratulations for the results. Already the feedback was very good. We will start with the questions received before this call, and then we'll proceed with the questions that were received during the call. Okay, let's start with the ones already presented in the order you are showing on the screen. Do you qualify for any of the facilities announced by Prime Minister Bolojan government regarding the economic recovery?
Yeah, for us it is still really unclear in which direction those measurements will be implemented. We mainly expect that it will be beneficial for small to medium-sized enterprises. For the analysis that we did on this matter so far, we don't see a huge impact on this. We could think, I think the largest impact could be some financing when you would do the upgrade to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. I think that could be the largest contribution, but it's really unclear in which direction it goes. As a general, we are really supportive for the government that they will start to do reforms, especially in the public sector. So we are glad to see that that is part of the implementation.
Okay, do you plan to publish also the cash flow?
Yes, the cash flow will. The cash flow will be published in March, so in the annual report.
Okay, regarding the financials, when will you release the budget for 2026?
We will release the budget for 2026 at the end of March. So when we publish all the materials, why is this? As we could see, there is the milk price is significantly out of the processes. Quite unexpected. by the end of March, and we can come up with a clearer explanation. And still, we are mainly a dairy milk producer today. So of course, the milk price has still a significant influence on our financial results. That's the reason we start to diversify and strengthen our business model. And especially if we look to the compost and the biomethane, which are extremely important projects for us in the 2030 strategy, which have significant profit margins, let's say, the NGR will become less dependent on these kind of significant fluctuations in milk price in the future.
Okay, now the question regarding the financials, what was the main consumer of cash in 2025, CapEx or working capital?
It was working capital for 85% and CapEx for 15%.
Okay, several questions related to the authorization for biocompost, if the authorization were obtained already or not.
No, we didn't. We did not obtain the certification, but as I mentioned during the presentation, it looks quite good and promising. All our files are filled in. They are also already in France, as well as I mentioned a few weeks ago, is a other facility. Exactly the same technology that we use is certified. So there are not any reason to think that we wouldn't certify our product. Only the matter is when. But from what we understand, they told us many times, I must admit, that we would obtain the certification, but we are really confident that it will be in the coming period. We will start to sell fertilizer, but for a lower amount and for a lower price, of course, than the 180 euros that we aim to sell. But we will see. Maybe we will not sell it on the Romanian market, but to export it.
Okay. It was also a question regarding the legislation. If you know if there are any updates on the biogas legislation. Generally.
Yeah, that looks really promising from sources. From sources, it's said that the implementation will be in the coming months to have the injection into the grid. And of course, that is a huge decisive moment, I would say so, as without injection into the grid, we have no project, I would say. But we are really positive on this matter. The government is working on it. And we expect in the coming weeks, as well as in the coming months, that this will be finalized. But the outlook is really positive that the project could be implemented based at least on the injection into the national grid.
Okay, I'll refer more now to the questions in the Q&A because some of the questions that were sent before the presentation are already answered during the call. So first question is about the overproduction against the milk price falling trend. Do you think this will become a problem for the NGR, or does Lactalis still shows a high demand for milk from you? There are news and discussions among overproduction in Europe, and DN now is the largest producer and will become even bigger. Hence the question in a price pressure environment. Thank you.
Yeah. As I presented throughout all the graphs that I showed, that this is just a temporary oversupply. Currently, the oversupply is 14%. This oversupply will decrease to 9% is the estimation. While on a global level, we will see an increase of 21%. As I mentioned, partly offset by the global south itself, but the rest still should come from Europe, especially also if we look to higher quality products, think of cheese, etc. Also now with the Mercosur deal, there's another opportunity, especially for cheese, to further increase cheese exports to the Mercosur countries. So we really think that this is, and based on our own analysis, as well as the most important analyst in this sector, that this is a temporary thing. One is due to the mouth and claw disease and blue tongue, as well as that currently, because of the decline in milk price and relatively a favorable summer in Western Europe, so where the feed costs are relatively low, as well as if you purchase food from the market, it's also in a really favorable situation. We think that farmers, and this is always how the cycle goes, that as soon as it drops, farmers will start to produce more milk, so to reduce their production cost, of course. We expect that it will go on, that there will be additional supply in the coming months, but it is not sustainable, so this will stop. Then the next phase, what we will see is herd optimization, that more animals will go to slaughter houses, and afterwards we will see an increase in production again. As well as I showed through the graphs, there's clearly with official institutions like Eurostat, as well as Rabo Research, etc., who are really respected in this industry, that there is growth for the coming years. And I think one of the main indicators is also the aging population in Europe. As I mentioned, the far majority of the farmers over 55 years old have no succession, but also take in consideration there will come a lot of legislation for welfare, a lot of for sustainability. A lot of legislation will be implemented for sustainability. It's not so much in the news, the Green Deal, but the Green Deal is just moving on. So if you're a small farmer and you are 45 or 50 years old and you have no succession, it's not worth to do all this kind of investment. They will not be able to return it. So those farmers will even stop sooner before, or at least before their retirement age. And don't exclude as well climate change consequences. I think if you think, especially for industrial farmers who need to produce in a sustainable way, the key pillar in this strategy is also our wheatgrass production to be less and less dependent on just local crop production.
Okay, some more questions on the milk price. The price graph you showed earlier, what price is that, spot or long term for Romania, the benchmark in a given country or mix of countries?
Sorry, one more time.
It's the price graph that you showed earlier. What type of price is that? Is the spot or long-term contracts? And if Romania is a benchmark?
No, the graph that I showed without figures, that's the graph that I mean, so I can go. This graph, I assume, yeah. This is our contracted milk price. So part of our milk price is the far majority of our milk is contracted to several processors, and the part is set on the spot market. So as I said, we see finally some stabilization. We saw a huge decline December as well as the beginning of the year, but we know our price now already up to April. So we see clearly a stabilization, and it corresponds as well with the other graphs on the European level. So the mainly graphs that I showed are all based on the European market as a whole, so the EU. And there we clearly see the increase, etc., was meant for the EU. But we will publish all those slides as well, so you can have a look at it tomorrow or the day after.
Okay, so the European is more or less the spot price that is traded day to day, right? It's not like a long-term or contract.
No, the spot market is traded day to day. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the price is the spot market. Also, can you explain how your contracts work? What percentage of sales are long-term contracts, and how is the price determined for those 6 benchmarking countries, and how much is spot price, and how is determined?
So for the milk processors, we have with our largest clients a contract for 3 years, and that contract follows a certain indicator. So our milk price is not based, it has no reference to the Romanian milk price. It's based on the average of 6 northern Western European countries. So we follow that price. Why are we doing that? In the past, we had a fixed milk price for the whole year. But as soon as you have a crash on the market, which happened last time in 2015, after we have only seen growth, as soon as that, the difference, of course, between the contracted price and the spot market price becomes too large, the processor will have issues, let's say, and they will cancel or withdraw from the contract. So we thought it's a safer way, especially as the Energar is a fast-growing company and doing a lot of investments. For us, it's important this period to maintain our clients and to have some predictability on this case. And of course, we produce large volumes. We don't sell to small factories. We only sell full trucks. So that's the reason we said, okay, let's have a change in strategy. So we have, let's say, for between 75 and 80% of our milk is based on those long-term contracts which follow this indicator. It's even a bit more. Let's say around 15% is sold currently on the spot market, and that's more or less what Straja produces. Let's say we think through the skimmed milk factory and cream factory, of course, this will further increase, but there's only more or less a commodity market for those products. But to give you the current spot market price is extremely low. But if we look last year to the spot market prices, we had spot market prices of 80 cents per liter. 70 for a long period it was even 76 cents per liter, etc. Significantly higher than the contracted price.
Okay, a suggestion that if the milk is delivered, the monthly milk production is delivered and announced in the newsletter, is there a reason why it is not announced on the BVB website as well?
Yeah, so every quarter we publish our milk production as a quarterly indicator on the stock exchange. We do this every quarter, and only on a monthly basis it's in the newsletter. We can have a look at this, etc. But I think it's also important to have a connection with our shareholders. And we publish it every quarter, so that is the strategy what we have so far. But we can have a look to see if we should publish this every month, let's say. But it's a quarterly indicator, which is always published on the stock exchange in this manner.
Okay, so you will have a second look on that, because probably the suggestion is to have it monthly at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I got the message. I will start to think a bit about it. If I not fully agree with it, let's say, but we will see. I will reanalyze, and we will see if we do it. We will do it monthly, so you will see it from next month.
You mentioned the start of skimmed milk and cream production in September 2026. Given that this represents a new B2B business line, have you already secured some off-take agreements for the estimated volumes? What is the expected profitability margin for these processed products compared to your current margin on raw milk sales?
Yeah, no, that really depends on the period. As I mentioned, the skimmed milk price and the cream price, they generally follow the raw milk price. Okay, we look really on the spot market. Currently today the price is low, but generally it follows the price. Only there are some add-ups. Let's say we see there's a lot of interest, especially in the skimmed milk part, not only for Greece and northern Italy, but also from some other companies. As I mentioned already, there are also companies in other parts of Europe who really look to diversify their type of business, etc. Who have announced their interest to close large contracts. Of course, for us, when you close a contract, they will also schedule it in their fabric. So we need to be sure that we understand the process. That's our goal is to learn this in August and to start delivery slowly in September. But we have no doubts that we will have no off-takers. We see there is a clear interest. As I said, it is somehow a new business line. On the other hand, it is more a strategic move, not necessarily to significantly increase the margin. But mainly to be able to diversify our clientele, so we become less dependent on just a few clients, as well as the geographic area where we could sell our product. And what we generally see is that if you look through to the last couple of years, that the milk price in northern Italy and Greece is almost constantly higher than in the rest of Europe. So through this plant, we will be able to significantly increase our sales to that region. So it's more a strategic move to be more resistant and have a more diversified client portfolio. Later in the year, when we do the commissioning, etc., we could come up with some more data in this regard, let's say.
Two questions regarding the quarterly results. Of course, the congratulations are still there, but is there a risk that the company will report a loss in first quarter, considering the low milk prices in the first 3 months of 2026?
Yeah, no, we don't expect a loss, so that's good. We work hard to optimize our production costs. It's really good, especially if we look to feed cost prices. They are really favorable currently to purchase from the market. That helps. We estimate as well a good agricultural start of the year, mainly for our triticale production. The fields look really amazing, so we are confident to have a great harvest there, at least for that crop. We will see a decrease in profitability in Q1. We will not be able to fully offset, but we will be able to partially mitigate it. Also, we further optimize our farms. To give you one example, we had also some external farm workers, etc., on our farms working, doing several operations. We have stopped with that now since approximately a month. And we didn't hire additional employees for this, so we really hard working on optimizing the cost structure. We also try to further increase our milk supply while we are also optimizing the herd. So we will be able to partially mitigate it, not fully, but we will be, for a big part of the year, we think we will be able to mitigate Q1, but it will show a decrease compared to last year. But if nothing really happens, let's say the building is on fire or whatsoever, we don't estimate a loss, and also not something close to that.
Okay, thank you. Because we still have some more questions to answer. I would ask to have, if someone else has questions, please put them in the chat, because we would like to cover all the topics and all the areas. We have some more questions on the economic overview, including the snow. How has the snow these days affected the activity? Because it's quite unusual in Romania. And also if you see other economic conditions that may impact your activity, slowdown in consumer spending or some other.
Yeah. No, the snow really benefited us this year. We had lots of snow here in Transylvania region, and we had also a lot of cold weeks, but luckily our crops were covered by snow, so they were protected, and slowly the water levels were filled. Also, it was seen in the graph, I think Adina showed, to the waterfall and the water supply currently in the region, and it looks really good. It's the ground is filled up with water, I would say. So that is that looks good so far, but it has only a consequence now on the current crop. That means triticale, and of course for corn and these kind of crops we need to see later in the year, because it matters that we will have also rainfall later in spring, etc. But so far the agricultural year looks good. On other economic matters, of course, the snow has some consequences for the solar panels and these kind of things. It was really grey, so we didn't have so much production there. But on the other hand, the weather didn't have a lot of implications, I would say. If we look more on an economic broader level, okay, we need to see what are the consequences now when the United States re-announced those tariffs and what that will do to the dollar, let's say, and if we would see a faster recovery, for example, from the butter market, etc. But as also shown in the graphs, we expect stabilization and later on a slow but step and gradually growth in the milk price again, and a more accelerated growth, I would say, in H2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, some more questions regarding the compost. If they will be already included in the budget, in terms of revenues mainly, when you will start to monetize the project?
Yeah, they are included in the budget, so for the coming years. So we have several thousand of tons included in the budget for this year, and yeah, we really aim and expect as well that it's March or latest April that we finally should receive this EcoCert certification. As well as we are working on we are working as well on a European organic certified certification as well. This we also aim to obtain this year.
Good. Several questions on the capital market strategy. Given the share price, any more projected ABBs from the Boer family to allow new investors to come in the company? This is one question. Another one is related to the increase in share capital with cash from shareholders. How do you see things going forward?
We have at the moment a clear strategy is for the coming years we would like to remain the majority shareholder. The strategy is to diversify further our shareholder base. That's mainly that we are currently looking to further diversify through institutional investors. So that's what we are working on. As I mentioned, we go on several roadshows this year. So it could be, but we talk about small percentage. What we are looking for is maybe 2 times 2% or something in this sphere, and then to add to institutionals, we will have roadshows here in Romania, but we are also invited on a roadshow to London, Paris, Zurich, and Frankfurt, and I think there will be added a 5th city as well. That is also for institutional investors and some family offices. That's further to strengthen our institutional investor base. That is currently the strategy. Of course, when we will do a major capital increase, and we don't aim to do that this year, as far as we can. There will be also the opportunity for retail investors, of course, to also join in this part. That will be a more mixed structure.
Okay, just to reconfirm, because we had a small freeze, it will not happen this year, right? The share capital increase.
No, the share capital increase will not happen. We normally, or something's come up, but normally we don't expect to do it this year. Mainly we expect next year as part of the food cluster. And then also retail investors will have the opportunity to join in this. It will be a more mixed structure with institutionals and opportunity for retail investors to invest as well.
Okay, you got a 10 vector score. Other IR companies should learn from you on the communication side. When do you plan to go on the main market?
Our plan to go to the main market is H1 next year, April, May. So this year we will announce the broker as well, hopefully the banks who will support us to do the upgrade to the main market. We will implement audit committee, remuneration committee. We will have a critical look to our current board structure. If we need maybe to add more board members there, so to cover more from a national perspective, the board structure. So that is the goal. And thank you very much. We put a lot of effort in investor relations. We are really happy with the factor score. Also that we are rewarded internationally, especially on the European level. I'm glad that that is picked up. And of course, we hope that more companies would invest time and allocate more resources to investor relations, because it will help the whole market, let's say. At least it's promising to see that I saw from some business communities who lobby that Romania should become part of the capital market union, let's say, from the start. So that, of course, would be an amazing next step.
Excellent. Hi, Peter. Do you see any opportunity to collaborate and make business with another agribusiness from the Bucharest Stock Exchange? There are plenty of them listed in this sector.
This is a dangerous question, let's say. For the moment, we have no interest in another company necessarily locally. Let's say it doesn't mean that they don't do a good job, but our main project is currently really investing in our dairy operations, as well as on the sales side through our processing plant, as well as in the food cluster. In the food cluster, with greenhouses, we expect our goal is to cooperate with local producers to help them grow, so they could supply sufficient fruits and vegetables to the cluster, to sell through the cluster, as well as with international parties. And nothing is sure at this moment, but we will do quite some visits through Europe as well. We met already in the Netherlands several entrepreneurs who would like to expand into Romania. We will soon go to Poland to visit growers there who would like to expand. And through this, what we can offer is the experience in Romania. We can offer the infrastructure, part of the management, but we look really for cooperation with specific growers who we need for this food supply and who have the experience to grow a certain crop. So that means also that we need to come up with less capital. We could think of 50-50, majority stake, minority stake in some companies. But through it, we invest in a more secure way, I would argue, than to grow all the fruits and vegetables ourselves. So it's not our goal to produce all the fruits and vegetables ourselves. This we really see through cooperation. And that can be in different forms, as I said.
Okay, some more congratulations on the wonderful results. When will you start investing in the food cluster?
As I said, we are currently doing additional research after the visit that we did. So we need to find an optimum product mix and some other issues. We started to look to locations, to analyze locations. We also need to analyze which markets do we need to serve. Is it, for example, only Bucharest, or should we somehow include Sofia, Odessa, could even think larger on the other side of the pond in the future, let's say, of Istanbul or whatsoever. Especially we focus on premium products, I think, but that the decisions still need to be taken, but the premium products looks really good. Also, analyses show that fruit and vegetable prices are higher in Romania than also in Spain, in Greece, etc. So there is a clear margin and there's a huge deficit. So our goal is at least to find this year the location that needs to have several requirements. Energy mix is extremely important to have a good mix, to be resilient and resistant. The location, we think, for as far as we can oversee now, that it will be around Bucharest. But we need to find the exact location where our railways, as I said, the energy mix, and enough hundreds of hectares. Because it's not only buildings, we need a lot of infrastructure, roads, etc. So I think we will be able to also select a location. And if we are a bit ambitious, I would say that we also would start to acquire land. And then when we have the optimal business model, then next year we can use to contract or start cooperation, negotiation with other partners who could join the food cluster, and to start to obtain certain, at least the process of certain permits. And then the goal is to have at least to start production, also some local production from 2029.
There are plans to acquire small farms in Romania that are in financial difficulty?
No, we have no plans. What we aim in the future is the core of our dairy operations will be in the Transylvanian region. We mainly focus on this region for our dairy component. The fruit and vegetable component will have another location where we also need an additional team and these kind of things in the Bucharest area. What we think now is, of course, that we will start to construct from next year the Q2 farm to further supply future demand, as I have shown to the graphs. In 2028, we will take a decision to maybe also invest in the Straže 2 farm. We are purchasing already the land for that, and we will also prepare in advance building permits for it. That doesn't mean necessarily that we will do the investment. We need to see, of course, if the outcomes of all those analyses will have the outcome that everyone is estimating. But then we aim to further grow our dairy production. Because if we would also invest in the Straže 2 farm, it means we will go over this 200 million liters of milk on an annual basis in the future. So we really strengthen that model over here, but we are not looking to acquire small farm. We believe in this industrial integrated business model that we have. Through that, we have a lot of cost efficiencies, shared knowledge. We have now a construction team with feds, other analysts who can travel between the farms, etc., to retain the optimal, or to gain the optimal results. Let's say we think that's the strength of our dairy production facility.
Okay, a few more questions to go. If Dene Agrar elects to use its option to acquire a stake in the biogas plant, how is it going to be financed?
Well, in case we will acquire a stake there, then there is a big chance that we will come to the capital market, I would say. Let's say. So that's probably the only reason what I could think of if we would acquire that. But I'm not sure if that is done this year or that will be next year. But that would be an investment probably where we would knock on the door of the capital market.
Okay, thank you. In the past, in the strategy, there was a line to simplify group structure. There are a lot of sub-companies. Is this still something you are actually reviewing or no need anymore?
Yes, I mean, we did already a significant decrease in the number of companies, especially since established last year. We went from 15 to, but I look quickly now, to 11, I think, if I'm correct. And we will further decrease. I think this year we will decrease two other companies, so we will end up in 9. And also we will try next year to further simplify it. In the ideal situation, we would also integrate the farms, and we will look and analyze this in the future. If we could also integrate the farms to even more significantly reduce the number of companies, but we first need to analyze the new EU budget. And we expect that there will come a deal somewhere next year. So then we have at least another 7 years, let's say, of more estimates, let's say, I would say. So yeah, we are looking into further simplifying it. We will reduce the number of companies from 11 to 9 this year. Mainly, I think next year we will be able to reduce with another 2 companies, which means there would be 7. And then when the new EU budget is announced and the structure of certain subsidy allocation, etc., we could even think of further simplifying it.
Okay, what is the break-even milk price, if you can provide, below which operating profit turns negative?
We never communicate on exact prices whatsoever. It's not that we want to hide it or that we don't want to share it with you. It's just based on our contracts. As I mentioned, we have generally a favorable price. Last year, our milk price, generally speaking, was higher than the European average. Okay, we need to see where we will end this year. We don't know yet, of course. But our price is really competitive due to the fact that we have this average of 6 Northern Western European countries. So I cannot disclose it. There are clauses in the contracts that would harm, and also it would harm the interest of the DNR if it would come public. We try to as much to give you guidance as we can. That's the reason we show those tables. We give you certain indicators when we share certain European tables, etc., to somehow guide you, let's say, to come close. But we cannot the exact figure. We cannot disclose the exact figure.
Yeah, I think this can be further analyzed if anything such a minimum, not necessarily what you're already having, but what would be a hypothetical minimum that could drive the company.
Yeah.
The loss. Yeah, that's an analyst call.
I understand, but okay. Anyway, it is a cycle. It's not things usually go in parallel. If we see a decrease in milk price, usually what follows after is also a decrease in feedstock, etc. So usually the production costs decrease as well with that. If we see high feedstock prices, high cereal prices on the market, the milk price it does also increase, let's say. So anyway, it is not just a fixed figure. But
okay, 2 more questions. Do you intend to invest in research and development?
Yeah, that's the next phase we're entering in, especially the wheatgrass facility. I mean, the wheatgrass facility is not only to make our farms more resilient, to produce better food for our animals, to contribute to net zero milk supply in 2030. Hopefully, that's our aim. But as well, with the wheatgrass, we will also have a part R&D, because the first facility will come operational this year, 40 tons output, and we will analyze this for a year and optimize the structure. And we will do a lot of R&D in this structure to optimize the system, to further expand it on our other farms. It is, I think, for that also an amazing project in our company. That's something new for our team, to integrate this R&D, which can also be used to other farms. We will also do R&D on our compost facilities. Some other things that we are thinking on, for example, with the compost, is to mix it, to purchase also chicken manure and to mix it, to have a higher added value product. Or we could think of even add lava wheat in the future as well, to have a higher value product and to diversify the product portfolio of the organic fertilizer. So this we also need to do through R&D for which crops it best fits, etc. But with the real cost facility, we will have, we will invest in R&D, because the goal is not to only use this and develop this facility for the Agrar, but to also sell this technology in the future to third parties in Europe, but also on a global scale.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this level of transparency and the time that you and the team allocated for this. Also, I noticed another feedback, and I noticed Dene Agrar raises cows for milk and Group Sherban for meat. A lot of cows investing so far. Dene is more profitable with higher margins, but of course it is a different business. And I know you instruct your personnel to take good care of the cows, biggest Dene asset. Congratulations. So the question is, when you plan to pay dividends?
Well, I thought already it takes a lot of time before we have the dividend question again. Well, it is in our strategy from 2028 that we would be open to start to pay dividends. From our perspective, we have given shareholders amazing growth in the last period. Okay, we can always hope for more. We had last year a share price growth of 90%. This year you have already almost a share price growth of 40%. Since listing, we are close to 400%. So far we have made our promises. As well, the truth is that this year, especially this year, we have a lot of execution projects, investments going on. So we will be open to do it from 2028. But we will probably have a certain vote or something. Anyway, you will have a vote on this with our investors, because we have also quite some and who are really large investors, I would say, who not necessarily are favorable to pay out dividends. They prefer more sustainable growth and opening more farms, etc. in the future. But from our perspective, 2028 would be a good year. That we are on the main market. We will have the commissioning of the biomethane plant at that full year. So we think that is a natural step to start to pay dividends.
Okay, thank you. Will you be affected by the new cap of 100,000 euros for large farms?
Well, this is, of course, we will be affected, but we still need to see the EU budget. There are a lot of negotiations going on in this field. For that, I was also referring to that we need to see if we could integrate the farms in itself, etc. But of course, everything less for the larger farms will have an effect. On the other hand, I mean, we are significantly investing in no-till. We will have 30-40% of our own food production produced in the future on our farms. Also from herd optimization. Currently, we have more young stock animals than we have dairy cows. In an ideal situation, you would have 1/3 young stock and 2/3 dairy cows. We don't have an optimal herd structure at the moment because we are growing so fast and we are raising all our own animals. So we are raising from calf to cow for our farms. And that will continue in the coming years. But still, there is a lot of optimization possible on the farms and increase. We can gain a lot of favorable outcomes still there. So I think I answered the question. In the meantime, I more or less forgot the question, let's say, but sorry.
Okay, so you will be affected, and let's see what it is.
But in a smaller amount. I mean, we think from an industrial scale, we should just produce significantly more milk, cost optimization. We will also look in the coming years into robotization. The robotization developments go really fast. I think it could be interesting for certain farm work, but we could also think of for the milking parlor, etc. This kind of robot. So there are a lot of opportunities to further also optimize there, as well as those smaller farms will gain maybe a bit more subsidies in the future. This could be, but don't forget that we have this aging population. That a lot of the smaller farmers are over 55 years old, as well, that they need to invest in welfare and sustainability, etc. So, I mean, we will see what is there. We are really curious for the new EU budget, I must say, but there are a lot of negotiations going on there, so that's really unclear.
Okay, we have a more or less accounting related question. The policy regarding the revaluation of biological assets according to IAS 41, frequency and main assumptions.
Yeah, I think Michaela, our CFO, answered that well throughout the presentation, but okay, I can summarize quickly. We have IFRS implemented with Mazars. We have implemented with Mazars, as well as we contracted an external auditor. It's really one of the leading auditors in on the Romanian market. Also, the process of the auditor is validated by Mazars in this case, and it will the valuation of the biological asset, they will take the market prices. So in Romania, but also to a larger extent in the European level, that are the animals, the biological assets, but as well the stocks, and they will be reevaluated every quarter. So of course, in theory, if we think especially on the IFRS results, that could have an impact. Currently, we don't see a decline of animal value, but of course, if this low milk price will continue in the coming months, we will see more availability for animals for meat, let's say, on the market. So that could show a slight decrease later this year, or could have a small impact, we expect, but it could have an impact on the animal prices or the animal valuation, which we look, as I said, every quarter, and it's mainly about the feedstock that we have, as well as the animals, and every 3 years, the other assets will be re-evaluated, buildings, etc.
Okay, maybe a few more closing remarks on the milk price estimates for the upcoming months. I know you already have described and detailed your estimates. And maybe another question related to Romanian milk market. If do you see it as oversupplied at the moment? And if so, how long do you estimate the situation will persist? And also in December and January, DNA Agrar's milk production increased significantly compared to the average of the previous months. Has DNA already contracted the milk volumes for this higher level of production, including for the coming months?
Yeah, as I mentioned, so to a large extent, our milk is contracted. Let's say 15% is sold on the spot market. That will further increase in the coming months until we open the processing plant, because we are reserving the milk that is produced by the Straja farm to go through the processing plant. So that's the reason we cannot close it for a long contract for the coming years, because in that case we don't have any milk internally, let's say, to supply the processing plant for skimmed milk and cream. If we look to Q1, as I mentioned already, we will see a decline. We have a significant decline in our milk price, but we will partially mitigate, and also to further integration, reduction of our production costs, further optimization of milk, increase in liters of milk. So we will be able to partially mitigate that and to still be profitable in Q1. We estimate, as we saw on the chart, that we will have stabilization in the coming months. After that, first a modest growth, and later in the year a more accelerated growth in the milk price. Over the whole year, we estimate that the average milk price will remain under the level of last year. It must also have been said that last year was a really high milk price. I didn't put it today on the slides, but the estimates from these kind of analysts and the reports that we shared today is on the long term, up to 2030, that more or less the average milk price will lay between 48 and 52 euro cents, let's say, on a European level. Clearly, we are far away today from these kind of prices, but on the mid to long term, that is the prices that are expected, and demand looks good, as we showed through the graphs. Then on the local market, of course, there's oversupply, but the farmers are not throwing it away. I mean, around Christmas, it was extremely difficult to sell milk, to even get a few percent, I think, when you would sell it on the local market. But we currently see, especially also from our clients, an increase in requests to deliver more milk. But of course, it's clear on a whole European level there is too much milk. Specifically for Romania, of course, it's an importing nation, so in theory, we will see a decline. We will see a decline in the There's not an oversupply on the local market, but it's a commodity market, so the price is more or less set there. But Romania suffers already, and this is quite strange for an importing nation who is not self-sufficient for milk supply. The price for milk, the local milk price, is for many years already one of the lowest on the European level, which is of course concerning. But again, I think a huge argument for our strategy to open this processing plant at the Straatje farm, later to double capacity at the Kut 2 farm. So we will make sure that the business model of the Energaard doesn't depend on the local demand, but that we have several options to sell our milk. Did I then?
Yes, and
limitation of the milk. No, we don't expect. We don't aim for a limitation of the milk. We will try to further increase our milk. I know this sounds counterproductive, but the whole market is producing more milk. So the more milk produced, the lower production cost per liter of milk.
Probably you'll receive a competition for the longest earnings call conference, but we still have more questions. And one comment is that not all investors want dividends. So, okay, you may be open to distribute dividends, but yeah, definitely you will take care of all the opinions. And you already answered the fact and the question that, yes, Romania imports milk. Is this a reason to worry? That milk comes from Poland?
No, of course we would like to see that the Romanian market was more competitive, that we would see less imports from Hungary and Poland. But it's not the situation. So of course we can do two things. We can complain about the situation, but we are for many years in this situation. I think it's really important to invest in quality, invest in welfare, but also think strategically. And that's the main reason we invest in this processing plant, that we don't depend on local market. Of course, it's a huge contradiction that the government says they want to have control of their own milk supply. They want to become Romania should become an exporting nation, etc., etc. And in the meantime, you implement price caps, etc. I mean, no. If someone knows the logic, please explain to me. So far, I don't fully understand this strategy. But nevertheless, it's something we cannot influence. So that's the reason we try to open up to other markets. I think there's still a huge potential for Romania, as I showed already, from the shift from Eastern Europe, where there is this nitrogen overload, and where we have here the nitrogen shortage, a lot of land available, and especially there is a lot of growth for the Romanian market. I think also in more value-added products of butter, etc. But the reason that so much milk is imported is that partly the farmers in those countries do a better job, and partly, of course, subsidy allocation, etc., is different done in certain countries as well. But it's something we cannot change. We will see. That could be interesting in the new, if we look to the EU budget, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if they would include it in the new budget, that there will become a more fair allocation of subsidies to all of Europe. Let's say. Now there are still some differences between some countries, but I think there's a big chance it will be eliminated, which would be normally positive for Romania. Okay. And for the dividends, it's a long story, but we will have a certain vote on this, and then we will see where we go to. Anyway, I think the nice part of the capital market is that there are lots of dividend stocks, not so many only growth companies, let's say. We are a bit of an exception there. I'm clearly aware of that. But I think if you look for dividend, there are lots of alternative options as well on the market. And I think it's amazing to have a market where you have growth companies, where you have dividend companies, combinations of it, so you can allocate your portfolio in a really strategic way, what fits your personal situation.
Okay, thank you very much for all the answers provided. We thank you to investors that stayed until this hour. And if any closing remarks, Peter, or we'll follow the agenda.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the participation again, of course, and being part of the Energaard family. If you're not yet part of the Energaard family, I would say I hope that you gained lots of more knowledge about the Energaard, about our investment strategy. I think we have shown in the last couple of years that we are a clear executor, that we say what we do, but especially that we do what we say. Our aim is to do this also in the coming years. We are confident for the future. We will have headwind. It will be a difficult first half year, but we will be profitable. So no worries in this regard. But I think on the long term, and that's what the many tried to show today, is that the outlook for the dairy sector is really good. I mean, we have a stabilization in Europe, more or less, with no decline, more consumption of value-added products, a significant increase, 21% increase on a global scale. Especially, we will see significantly income increases, etc., in countries like India, China, and these kind of countries, developing countries. So who will have also a better purchasing power, also for value-added products. The diets will change. So if we look for the long term, and that's the reason that we will start to try to accelerate on the Q2 farm, to accelerate a little bit the timeline on that farm, because we really think that there's clearly a place for large milk producers who can do this in a sustainable way. Thank you very much, and we will see each other either on some of the events. If you would like to attend the event in the Netherlands, it's a Dutch-Romanian network. You could register on their website online for this event. It's a physical event. Or for the other events, otherwise we see each other probably end of April at the annual meeting, or at the approval for the Q2 financing, as well for 2 composed units, and otherwise at the Q1 results. Have a lovely evening, and see you soon.